Okay, hi everyone, welcome back to this video series on introductions to firewalls. Deploying a tunnel solution using L2TP. As with a three-pronged firewall, the firewall rules that you implement in a two-firewall scenario will differ, depending on whether the L2TP server and L2TP clients support NAT, traversal NAT, NAT-T. Deploying firewall rules for clients that don't support NAT-T. L2TP uses Internet Protocol Security IPsec to encrypt data transmissions between the tunnel client and the tunnel server. Remember that IPsec can't pass through a firewall that has a network address translation NAT service if the tunnel client and the tunnel server don't support NAT-T. Therefore, the DMZ must use public network addressing to allow the use of an L2TP tunnel server as shown in figure 12.3. The use of public network addressing eliminates the need to define static address mappings. The external firewall allows direct access to the L2TP server using IPsec without having no readdress incoming packets. Table 12.4 shows the firewall rules that are configured at the external firewall in order to allow the L2TP tunnel client to connect to the L2TP tunnel server using IPsec. Remember that IPsec requires three firewall rules to deal with Internet Key Exchange IKE, authentication header AH and encapsulation security payloads ESP packets, protocol, transport protocol, source IP, source port, target IP, target port action, IKE, UDP, ANI, 523.16.18.17, 500 allow, AH, ID 51, ANI 23.16.18.17 allow, and as star there, ESP ID 50, ANI 23.16.18.17 allow. After the L2TP tunnel client connects to the L2TP server, the radius server located on the private network at IP address 192.168.222.3 authenticates the client. After the tunnel client is successfully authenticated, the tunnel client is assigned an IP address in the 23.16.18.128/25 address range. To allow this access, the firewall rules shown in table 12.5 must be configured at the internal firewall. So internal firewall rules to access an L2TP tunnel server: protocol, transport protocol, source IP, source port, target IP, target port action, radius authentication, UDP 23, 16.18.17, ANI 192.168.222.3, 18.12 allow, radius accounting, UDP 23.16.18.17, ANI 192.168.222.3, 18.13 allow, internal access, ANI 23.16.18.128/25, ANI 192.168.222.0/24, ANI allow. Deploying firewall rules for clients that support NAT-T. If the tunnel clients and the tunnel server support NAT traversal NAT-T, you can deploy private network addressing in the DMZ as shown in figure 12.4. As with a PPTP tunnel server, you must first define static address mappings at the external firewall to ensure that the NAT discovery, NAT-D and NAT-T traffic are redirected to the tunnel server in the DMZ. These static address mappings are shown in table 12.6. So 23.16.16.5 UTP 500 192.168.223.22 500 23.16.16.5 UDP 4500 192.168.223.22 4500. After the static address mappings are defined, you must define what protocols are allowed to pass through the external firewall to the DMZ. These firewalls are defined in table 12.5. NAT-D, UDP, ANI, 192.168.223.22, 500 allow. NAT-D, UDP, ANI, 192.168.223.22, 4500 allow. After the L2TP NAT-T tunnel clients connect to the L2TP server, the radius server located on the private network at IP address 192.168.222.3 authenticates the client. After the tunnel client is successfully authenticated, the tunnel client is assigned an IP address in the 23.16.18.128/25 address range. To allow this access, the firewall rules shown in table 12.8 must be configured at the internal firewall. So radius authentication UDP 23.16.18.17 ANI 192.168.222.3 18.18.12 allow radius accounting UDP 23.16.18.17 allow 192.168.222.3 18.13 allow internal access 23.16.18.12/25 ANI 192.168.222.0/24 ANI allow. So I'm going to leave it here today for this video. If you like listening, please consider like, sharing and subscribing. Thank you.